You're right behind me.
I know.
Right? Okay, so I am Nicole Miller, and I own and operate my company Physique. I started my company back when my daughter was born, so we're 17 years in now at this point. Through that time frame, I've worked with Ford Healthcare, and I've worked with Black Hawk Fitness, and I've worked with other facilities, and then I just grew to the point that I got myself to be able to work for myself, which has been basically grown by my daughter, to be honest with you. I wanted to be that hands-on mom, but I love the health and fitness and wellness, so I basically grew my business as she grew, right? To where now she's 17, I'm more able to get out there more and do more things because she's more independent and not as needed on me. So my business started as, honestly, I had issues with weight, going about it the wrong way, and then basically just learned to go about it the right way, found a love for it, went back to school for it, became a teacher first, then became a trainer. Then I went back to school again and became nationally certified as a holistic health and life coach. And I did that back in 2015 because I saw the change in the industry changing to where mental health shifted big, right? And then it shifted again big after COVID, and it unfortunately is still shifting, right? So at this point in time, I would say probably 70-30 between health and life coaching compared to what I do for personal training. I love it all. But regardless of the personal training aspect, the mental health is always going to drive or shut down that physical output. It's going to drive what you're going to put in your mouth. It's going to drive what you do for activity. It's going to drive your sleep. It's going to drive your interaction with individuals. It's going to drive your mental health to be positive, negative. Is my glass half full or half empty? Right? Is what it comes down to. So the packet that I sent with you guys, that I gave you guys to take home, because part of this you definitely can go ahead and work on your own on, is the first page explaining health coaching basically goes around, like, a lot of people are like, what is that, right? And it is definitely a collaborative effort of combining your life with your lifestyle, okay? Meaning that your mental has to be a part of that, right? So when you look on that first page, it kind of just gives you a very raw circle around the relationships, your career, food, right? Stress, exercise, which decision do we make, okay? And again, I don't want to read like word for word in this because I don't want to inundate you with like too much wordy, but this is why I wanted to make it a handout so you guys could actually take this with you, think about it, read it if you choose, okay? The second page goes into a whole health that, again, is different measures of emotion, right? Where we have the love, we have the service, we have the pleasure, we have the gratitude. All these other factors, all of this ties into how do we go through life and how do we look at different things and how do we approach different mannerisms and how do we deal with someone that is maybe sour, right? Do we look at them with empathy? Or do we look at them and be just as sour as they are, right? Okay, I personally feel like we need a ton more empathy in this world right now than we do anything else, to where I'm really sorry you're having that bad day, right? You know, and even if it's a matter of opening a door for somebody to put a smile on their face, might change their whole day for that day, right? So why not make that different? So I really feel that the mental health is so important right now because of just all the different changes that you're seeing. So that kind of layers in this circle for you of just the different things that can affect it, right? The environment, the careers. There's a lot of things we have no control over, right? But we can control how we react, and we can control how we respond, and we can control what we do with it mentally, right? If you're already in a bad place, more than likely you're going to get sucked into a bad place, right? Okay? But you have to be aware of those surroundings because we all have that positive and negative around us every single day, right? What are you going to choose to expend your energies on? The positive, the negative, or maybe even make a difference and make that effort to help someone that's in that negative space to roll over to a positive, or maybe have them look at it in a different light, right? So then moving on, these next 2 pages are my favorite, and I really encourage you guys to do this at your convenience. The circle of life. So when I went back to school to get certified as a holistic health coach, it was a pretty enjoyable experience because I was in school with people in India, I was in school with people across in other countries, and just to get their different input on how we look at things, how they look at things. I felt like I got the biggest benefit out of choosing to do the schooling that I did, which was integrative nutrition out of New York is where I went. And when I'm kind of an all or nothing girl. If I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it right, and I'm gonna do it 100% what's the best that I can do. And that's why I picked that school to go to. And this was one of the activities to where we did, and if you look at the circle, all of these things play a big part. And then what does your circle look like, right? You've got social life, you've got home environment, you've got joy, spirituality, you've got relationships, you have work environments, you have your health, you have your education, you have many different things in that circle, right? So if you are in an ill situation, if it be work, home, what the case may be, right? What kind of choices do you think are gonna be made for what you drink, what you eat, how you take care of yourself, how you sleep, how you rest, how your body truly rests, right? Okay, and the other big part in this is it's so hard for people to think like it's okay for them to take care of themselves. It's okay to take time to do something good for you, right? Because a lot of us are servants, right? A lot of us do things for others. I'm looking at several in the room that I know that have multiple businesses and have managed, and we're always about taking care of many other individuals, and then we forget about numero uno, right? Or our kiddos, right? Especially when they're younger. They do take more time, as understandable, right? But if we don't take care of us, how well do we take care of all of them, right? And that's easily forgotten. And I'm not saying it has to be a big thing, but even those little things every single day that you could do to make that positive change, to make that positive difference, have that positive outlook, looking at situations, and again, going back to that half glass being full or empty, how do you look at that, right? It really is just that simple, but it's also creating that new lifestyle and getting into those habits of how do I change this thinking, right? Or let's say that you're at your job, you're surrounded by a lot of negativity, which I get a lot with individuals that I work with. And we kind of just break it down, and you just do your job and stay, and you try to give off back that positivity, right, to individuals around you. Some will latch on, and you might even see a change in some of them. Some of them, you've done everything you can do, so you go on your way, but you don't let them affect you. It's almost like you create this barrier of just being this positive influence, and you hope that others will reflect on it, right, and feed from it. And if they choose not to, you continue to have empathy for them, but you gotta move on. Because again, you wanna take care of you, right? So you do need to know the sensible point of what degree do I go to? When is enough enough? Like, when do I stop? You don't wanna get drawn into the point that you lose you in the process, because then you may start turning to be a little sour. And then that's no good. So being aware of, is that good energy for me to be around? Is that bad energy for me to be around, right? And obviously, in life, we can only control so much in certain situations. We just gotta buck up, suck it up, and get through the time, right? But in a whole in our life, you can make a big influence by just your demeanor and your aura and what you walk around with, right? And for those of you that have children, I cannot speak highly enough from this. On a personal short level, I do not come from a very good background at all. I had a choice to make a difference and a change, and what I have been able to give to my daughter is such a compliment out in the world when all you hear is compliments of the behavior, the maturity, the independence, the strength, the things that I've encouraged her to do, right? To where making that difference. So for those of you that have children, they're always watching, and they're gonna learn more from example than they are this, because they hear this all day long. They're gonna follow your actions. They're gonna follow how you handle things. And I would say now, starting this when my daughter was a baby to now her being 17 is probably my greatest joy out of the whole situation with my business, to where I love all the people that I've helped. I've been doing this a long time in a small community, so a lot of people know me by name and know what I've been doing for a long time. For that, very proud of that. But I do have to say that my probably biggest joy is what I have seen my daughter grasp from the many different angles that you take from having your own business, managing what you manage, staying positive, helping all of those in front of you that come in. I mean, she will come to me sometimes, because you have to understand, now my studio is out of my home, so she'll hear things, right? And she'll be like, oh my goodness, Mom, how do you do it? You know? And I'm like, why are you saying that? You know, well, you know, complain. I'm like, where's your empath? Oh, make them think. Like, there's a different way to go about it, right? And especially with kids these days, they're probably not the strongest in the empathic world, like all of us can be, to set that example, right? So the health and life coaching for me has really taken a higher seat over the training, even though I still love the training. And it's just made such a difference in so many of my clients' lives, for them to be more positive, more self-worth. They're like worth something now for themselves. And I'm talking to where I've helped drug addicts, I've helped alcoholics, I've worked with probation officers, and I have corporate clients to where I'm working with all their employees. So I've had a wide span of what I've had the opportunity to work with. Now, once we get that mental health in order, if we can switch that over to that physical health for like an output, absolutely. But a lot of people go about that to where I'm gonna do this physical output and not take care of this. It's not gonna work, okay? The two have to go together. They have to be linked, and they've gotta be in sync to some degree. So we try to do that, but the client always drives that as far as what they can handle, as far as, because sometimes the mental is just enough. They just need to do one step at a time, right? But if you never deal with that mental and just jump into that physical and I'm gonna lift my way out of this, long term it's not gonna work. You've gotta deal with that mental health to get yourself to that other side. And the physical can definitely be an output for that, 100%. And that's where I'm gonna ask you to turn to the last page. And that is gonna be the nutrition plate, okay? So as you can see, you see the normal USDA plate, right? But now go on the outside of that plate. And this just encompasses everything that I've touched base on, between the relationships, the spirituality, the careers, the physical activity. All those are just, and I'm sure there can be many other aspects to the page that I showed you, okay, in the making your circle, making your line, right? But what are you gonna put on that plate? And all those factors on the rim of that plate, I guarantee you are gonna play part in that, okay? Because we have comfort foods that we go to, we have stress eaters, we have people that don't eat when they're stressed, right? The other big one is hydration. Where's the hydration at between not just the water, but the vegetables, the fruits, the intake, and then sleep. For new mamas, sleep, we kind of throw out the window for a couple years. It's just how it goes, right? Or multiple babies and multiple businesses, right? But trying to figure something out along those lines, being aware of like what I can control and what I'm kind of losing a little bit of control right now is huge. And then taking advantage of those things that you can grasp back underneath your belt to help yourself, right? The entrusting into yourself is huge. To know if I'm not in that good situation, it's okay to protect yourself and find a way to kind of work around it. Right now, a big talk I'm having with a lot of my clients is Christmas. You know, we don't live with our family every day. And then we see a lot of family for a lot of time. And there's some families that really struggle with that. They just don't have those relationships. They don't have, and so the stress and the anxiety and the buildup and how do I get through it and what do I do? And, you know, or if you're hosting or if you're, and it's like, bring it down, right? Dial it in, and then you make a plan. And those are all things that I help clients with. So it's, you know, the biggest thing that I always encourage people with if they're like, well, I don't know what's a good fit, is I always like to do it with you. I never want it to be a dictatorship. It's something to where I always suggest someone comes in for a consultation, it's an hour. Either you lead with a wealth of knowledge and we leave it at that, or we figure out the best plan for you. But it's always about the client, because the client needs to drive it. Because I can be there, but it can't be 60-40 all the time, right? There's some point in time that you gotta meet me somewhere for it to be beneficial for you, okay? So summing this up behind the empowerment is, remember that you are a source of empowerment for every single person around you, right? So mental health is gonna be huge, right? To be that positive empowerment. If you're positive, guess what you're gonna give off? Positive, right? And you empower people to be positive. You give them the belief that they might not have for themselves to carry through, right? They might be shy, they might be quiet, they might be doormats, that they let themselves just get walked over. Help them out. And it may just open that door for them to be like, oh, I can do this, right? Get them to believe in themselves and retain and own their life back for what anyone should be walking around with. So, any questions?
What's your favorite success story?
Probably my favorite is Gail, that trained with me for about 3-4 years until she moved away. And she had an unfortunate, she was heavier when she came in. She had multiple times she attempted to lose, and she was very adamant about working out. Food was kind of a struggle. She ended up going into have the bariatric surgery. I worked with her surgeon before and after the surgery as far as recovery. She came back, got strong, unfortunately had a very hurtful divorce. And I thought for sure she was gonna go flip backwards from all that she went through with the surgery. And she was probably with me 3 times a week at that point. And we kept her strong, and we kept her on the path, and she's doing great. And she found herself again, but a lot of it was that physical output, right? And then it was the losing the weight, and then when the divorce happened, she lost her self-worth, right? So then that's what we jumped and we worked on. So a lot of the times during our trainings, it turned into more health life coaching than it did physical training, because that's what she needed, right? And then other times we throw her on the battle ropes and let her beat the hell out of it. So whatever she needed, but it's probably one of my best, because you watch that high and the low go through someone's life for 4 years, and she could easily went the opposite direction. And she didn't. And she entrusted me to come to me with a lot of personal things, you know, and to trust me to help her, to direct her, even when there were times that I would get on her case and be like, what are you doing? You're better than this. You can't let, you know, and so many people need to hear that, you know, but to have that entrustment with someone, to believe your wording and to look for that direction is an honor for me, that you entrust me to do that for you, and that I can do that for you, and I'm so pleased I can. And I think a lot of my personal experience from my background has made me 10 times better at what I do, because I've been through a lot, and just a lot of negative in a lot of bad places. And I think that helps me understand where my clients are coming from, right? Because I truly believe that you really have to live through something to connect those dots, right? I mean, you can have empathy for someone, but if you've been there, you've lived it, it does make a big difference. And I will share that sometimes with my clients if it's appropriate, if they need to hear that, because they're looking at you like, oh, you're perfect. You don't have any. You know what I mean? And a lot of people make that mistake with trainers. They're thinking like, oh, oh no. And maybe some are, but I'm first and foremost and more than happy to, if necessary, because it's not about me. You know what I mean? But if I need to use that so they're feeling more comfortable, like, oh, she does get it, she does relate, absolutely, I will use that. But yeah, thank you for asking. So anyone else? Okay.
Thank you.
You are welcome.
It's your turn.